Okay, welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on this Sunday evening. That light is not helping me at all whatsoever. We're happy to have you in for another episode of the Primetime program here from Everbank, don't call it Trevor Bank Stadium, here where the Tennessee Titans have tanked successfully, even though they're not trying to tank, en route to a 20-13 loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. We will discuss whether or not this is what you wanted. I mean, I know there's a percentage of you that want to see your team win no matter what the circumstances are, want to see your team win no matter how down bad they are. But I don't think there has ever been as loud a cry for actively losing games from a fan base, or at least from this fan base, that I can remember. So we're going to talk about that, whether you're happy or sad about what the Titans have done at this point in time. I know that Jeffrey Simmons is out here talking shit to Colts players on Twitter after they got bounced from the playoffs by the New York Giants. They were not actively trying to tank, but they seem to have tanked away their opportunity, as is the Colts kind of MO. They seem to do this on a regular basis with their playoff lives on the line. They just give away games at a big spot. But we're not here to talk about Indianapolis tonight. We're here to talk about the Tennessee Titans and the way that they lost. So we'll ask you if you guys are happy or sad about this situation. We'll ask you if you are sad about this loss, whether or what was the most disappointing part for you. And there were good things that happened across the NFL today. They just didn't happen in this particular game that I'm here, or that I was here covering. So we will get to those at the end of the show. Before we get started, need you guys to share the show around on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Wherever you are spending your time with us, we do so appreciate you spending your time with us. We even more so appreciate you when you share this show, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch in the comments section, wherever you are spending your time. It was a bad day for the Titans as a team, but a good day potentially for the Titans and their position in the future, which is the stuff that we are there to work through. As is it Mono on Facebook Live says the Titans are now on perfect timing, hashtag Shedeur Sanders. Well, I would say that it's an interesting weekend to cape up for Shedeur Sanders, given how he looked in that bowl game, but that's neither here nor there. We'll see what the Titans end up doing. Right now, they have the second overall draft pick, and we'll discuss whether or not you feel good about that at this point in time. So share the broadcast around, and we'll go ahead and get this going. Troy says, let's get it right. The Titans aren't tanking. The Titans just suck, and we're the second worst team in the NFL, actually probably the worst team in the NFL. Yeah, we'll work our way through that. Don't worry, we got time. I got about, I'd say about 30 minutes before I have to catch my Uber to the airport and get the hell on out of Jacksonville. There is not a lot of good stuff here under normal circumstances, but not after covering a game like today. I'm ready to get on home. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the wonderful people at Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. By Zen Sports, promo code ATOZTN gets you in on all the action. Up to $100 on your no-danger first wager at zensports.com. And by TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch, where your first workout is free. As a Middle Tennessee resident, no workout ever recycled or repeated. Go to TrueMavFitness.com for more information today. So the Titans lose, but that's not new. It's their 13th loss on the season. It was, about as chef's kiss a Titans-Jags game as you could have. 6 wins between the two teams coming into today. Tornado warnings or tornado watches being issued for the northern Florida area, northeastern Florida, where Jacksonville is currently located. A deluge to start this game in the pregame that saw everything turn into total slop, and it's just about as good the Jags-Titans game that the football gods could have asked for. And so the game was about what you expected to be. It was neither good nor fun to watch. It was neither well played nor particularly exciting. The most exciting thing probably to take place on this football field today was Brian Thomas Jr., but that's not what the dialogue or the discourse seemed to be about. Whether the Titans won or lost, it seemed to be hyper-focused on, no, this team needs to lose this game because, one, You had the Rap Sheet report yesterday from Rap Sheet and Tom Pelissero saying that Brian Callahan is expected back in 2025. That, by the way, was before they got swept by the Jacksonville Jaguars and also before the Houston Texans finale. I would tell you that, everything that we've heard about it is that Brian Callahan is more than likely to be back. Ray Carthon, though, I think is way more up in the air at this point in time. So something to keep an eye on moving forward there. Why does Tankathon say they have the first pick in the second round, but the third pick in the first round? I don't know, man. I haven't gotten past the first round. Let's not get crazy with it. We can look that up for you tomorrow because God knows I'm going to have to look up more draft stuff than I've ever had to look at in December, which is somewhat depressing. No, very depressing at this point in time. But anyway, so the Callahan thing comes out yesterday, and you say, okay, it's a bold strategy to put that out there with 2 games left to go, especially with the level of importance that this particular ownership group puts on the Houston Texans game. Also, you didn't know that they were going to get swept by the Jags. Maybe you thought that they might get swept by the Jags. Maybe you hoped that they would get swept by the then 3-win Jacksonville Jaguars. But this is not something. Anyway, I wouldn't have put it out in week 17, but whatever. Rap Sheet and Pelissero, they've got really, really good information. And, the expectation on our end locally is that, Brian Callahan probably going to be back. But I wouldn't operate in guarantees, or I wouldn't be comfortable putting that out there before the season's officially getting ready to come to a close, because we know that she changed her mind halfway through the season last year, or later than halfway through the season last year, on her head coaching situation, and saw Mike Vrabel go from ready, steady Vrabel to out after week 17. And even that took a couple of days for her to make up her mind on. He didn't get fired on Black Monday. He got fired like the Tuesday after the fact. So with everything that's going on with this franchise right now, a lot of Titans fans came into this thing actively rooting against their team because you want the better draft pick. And congratulations to you. The Giants won. The Titans lost. So you have, in fact, secured a better draft pick. The Two Rivers Ford take, I guess, is what we'll start with. Are you happy or sad? Happy or sad? Those are the 2 answers that I'm looking for here. Happy or sad that the Titans lost today to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch is where you can react. Your Two Rivers Ford take is made possible by the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Go to Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com for more information. There's 2 schools of thought on this. Obviously, you can be. I think it's really easy to understand why fans, once you get to a certain point in the season. I mean, when this team started 0-2 and then 0-3, you looked around and said, all right, they're probably not going anywhere. None of us could have foreseen, not you, not me, not anybody involved with this franchise, certainly not them, could have seen this situation being 3-13 and potentially 3-14. Houston probably going to rest their starters next week, but still, I mean, they got swept by Mac Jones. There's no reason they can't lose to the Texans backup, which, by the way, would make some of you happy at this point in time. But you could have never foreseen how poorly this was going to go, how catastrophically this was going to go. And this wasn't even that bad a game. This isn't even bottom 5 of the games that they've played this year. So you get it if you're, just objectively, if you looked at a fan base that said, no, I'd rather lose games at this point. The team's not going anywhere. Nothing is going to be accomplished of substance this season. So let's just lose out and get the best possible draft pick. I totally get that from a fan's perspective. Actively wanting a team to tank, it doesn't happen. And when it does, there are significant penalties for it, i.e. the Dolphins losing a first-round draft pick and getting significant fines against their franchise because Stephen Ross was allegedly handing out $100,000 handshakes per loss with Brian Flores, or trying to, and Brian Flores was not interested in that. So teams don't actively tank because when they try to, the league curbs them pretty quickly. Hoping for your team to lose is one thing. Actively alleging that they're tanking is another, because this team isn't tanking. They just suck, guys. I mean, they're really, really bad. There's some of you that won't be convinced of that you'll put on your tinfoil hat and you'll start your conspiracy theories about, oh no, did you see the way that Brian Callahan, for example, when they were trailing by 10 and had an opportunity to get an early field goal, to get to third down, to spike the ball, to stop the clock, to kick the field goal on 4th down, and then try and get the ball back, try and get a stop ahead of the 2-minute warning and take advantage of some opportunities there to try and keep the clock alive as much as humanly possible to give themselves more of a chance than they ended up having at the end of the game, you would have said, oh, yeah, look at that. He's not actively trying to win this game, or he's coaching to lose this game, or Colt Anderson kicking the ball, or having the special teams, or having a special teams unit that kicks the ball in bounds that's able to be returned, that puts the Jags in position to get the win. You would say, oh, look at them. They're actively trying to lose this game. They're not coaching to win it. Well, no, I think one of the bigger problems is they are coaching to win these games, and they have been wholly unsuccessful, save 3 times against the Patriots, Dolphins, and Texans this year, where they have been able to successfully pull off wins. They're just awful. They're across the board awful, from coaching to players on down. This is bad. And so I think that this situation for the Tennessee Titans, you have to look at this honestly and say, okay, well, the football team's just bad. They're not actively trying to tank. But is them being this kind of awful in the best interest of the franchise? The answer is probably yes, because the better draft pick, the better draft position across the board in not just the first round. In fact, the first round is, it's important because you have the opportunity to get the best possible players in the first round. But your day 2 and day 3 picks are the bulk of what the roster is made out of, and you need a great many players to kind of supplement what this roster is. So you get to a point where you get the best possible draft position, even though you're trying to actively win games. And I do expect them to go out there and actively try to beat the Texans next week, even if they are unsuccessful in that or not. And you say, okay, best situation for the franchise and the future is the best possible draft position. If the coach is in fact safe, well, then he's not necessarily coaching for his job, even though he is. I would not get too caught up in that week, prior to week 17 report saying he's expected back. Plenty of things are expected. I expected this football team to be a hell of a lot better than it is. 6.5 wins, I would have bet the over easily if I was allowed to bet on the NFL. And of course, they continue to find new lows each and every week. Imagine getting swept by this Jags team. Imagine. This Jags team is awful. The Jags have 4 wins on the year, and the Titans are responsible for 2 of them. It's a crazy, crazy thing. Just when you think they can't find new lows, they certainly do seem to bottom out. So in that aspect, all right, it's a good thing to get the best possible draft position. But here's why it's not the best possible thing, and I'll explain to you why, even though that's exactly what many of you have been asking for. I'll explain to you why here in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Go to GaryAshton.com. Get your dream address without the stress. Get the intel edge you need to succeed at GaryAshton.com. The official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators is Gary Ashton. So the fact that the coaching staff gets up there and talks about, well, we're doing the best coaching job that we can, this, that, and the other. And Brian Callahan, I asked him a question today about how, the numbness of it. Like, they've had so many losses, 13 losses, unthinkable at the start of the year. So how do you keep the guys from getting numb to this and kind of getting, almost accustomed to losing? Because God knows they've done so much losing here of late. Brian Callahan's answer was pretty interesting to me here, because it was the first even remotely close to example of finger pointing that I would say that you could allege of the Titans head coach. This was Brian Callahan today.
Turnover and found a way to score, and we didn't get one.
How do you keep people from getting kind of numb to these losses at this point where there's been so many of them?
I hope they're not numb to it. I sure am not. It sucks. It's terrible. There's no joy in this process. There's no fun in this. It's terrible. I feel it every day. I walk into work. I feel it every day. I stand up here in front of you guys. Nothing is enjoyable about this. So I don't get numb to any of it, and I would hope nobody gets numb to it. And our job is to try to fix it and do whatever we can to fix whatever problems we got to fix, to add whatever players we have to add, to make sure that we have a better football team moving forward.
What will you tell the team going?
All right. So that's Brian Callahan earlier today. All feel terrible, to be honest. He said that they had a tip ball turnover. That was the difference in the game. Lost the turnover battle 1-0. That's been the story of the season, as the turnovers are putting ourselves in tough spots, and that was ultimately the difference. Again, it was one. Needed to find one play somewhere, and they found one, the turnover, and found a way to score, and we didn't get one. And then, the answer that you just heard there about it sucks, it's terrible, there's no joy in this process, there's no fun in this, it's terrible, I feel it every day I walk into work. And then he goes on to say, and it's not outright finger pointing, but he's saying, my job is to try and fix it and do whatever we can to fix whatever problems we got to fix, to add whatever players we have to add to make sure that we have a better football team moving forward. Here's the reason why it's a fine answer. Like I think it's a completely acceptable answer. But man, it's just so hard for me to wrap my head around. Well, you were already supposed to come in here and fix it. Like 6 wins was, according to your ownership group, the basement. Unacceptable for this situation. Brother, you'd be lucky to get 4 in 2024 with a significantly better roster. I can't wrap my head around the idea that, that these people who have failed so spectacularly, and it's across the board, and I put the most amount of blame at the feet of ownership because they ultimately are the most responsible for what their product looks like on a regular basis. I don't know how any of these people are going to fix it when it's gone so badly as it has. The turnover excuse is real. I mean, they've had a catastrophic number of turnovers. I think that there's a lot of different situations that you could look at where obviously Will Levis directly gave away several games this year. Those are unprecedented kind of turnovers. Levis has turned the ball over more at any point than any quarterback since Jameis Winston had 30 touchdowns against 30 interceptions a couple of years ago. I want to say that was 19. I think that was the 19 season. But it was really, really tough. Chosen says, Buck, if you thought Levis was going to fix this, I question you. Your front office did. They paid $228 million in free agency to build around him. Your owner did. She mentioned him, not by name directly, but she talked about the promising young quarterback on the roster and how they intended to continue to succeed and elevate around him when she fired Mike Vrabel in her statement. Your organization did. Your organization drafted this player, traded up to get him, tried to trade up into the first round to get him. So it's not a matter of whether I thought Levis was going to fix this. I don't know what I thought of Levis. I thought Levis, you could line up and play with him. I still think that you, in a system that is a better fit for him, you probably could. I think they just got the coaching. I think they probably got the Levis pick wrong. And then to compound that, they made things worse by hiring a coaching staff that wasn't going to mix with Will Levis. Whose fault is that? It's theirs. Like it's a completely crazy thing to try and continue to put this blame on Will Levis when Will Levis didn't do anything but get drafted here. And yeah, okay, he made critical errors this year, and I'm not here to excuse him. He's got his own share of the blame, share of the responsibility to bear. But there's a great many other people who put Will Levis in that position, and they're currently, still employed by your football team. Rand Carthon, who is the general manager, even though that, I'll be honest, they really watered down that title when they did not make Rand like the actual general manager his first year here and then promoted him, but then promoted Chad Brinker in a role above him. Chad Brinker, by the way, data scientist and all these different things, or head of their analytics department as a scout overseeing their analytics department. What great strides have they made as far as the personnel goes. Brinker was here last year too when Will Levis got drafted. Anthony Robinson is the assistant general manager here. All 3 of those individuals and their staff as a result are responsible for Will Levis being here and then building around him further. Dewan says, who else was we going to let play quarterback? Well, you could have given Malik Willis a legitimate opportunity to try and play. He seems to be significantly better under better coaching on a better roster for sure. But he looks fine. He was never even given the opportunity to compete for a backup. And let me tell you, I mean, he was bad when he was here, but they didn't even make it a competition around Will Levis. Shit, Mason Rudolph would have been better to start this entire season. I know you're probably sick of it. No matter what. Well, would 8-9 or 9-8 have been much better than 3-13? Yes, it would have. Yes, it would have. It would have been closer to the season that they promised you when they put all these things in place. There are so many different things that you have to look at and that you have to think about, and you have to work through the process of when you try and figure out, all right, who's most responsible for this thing shit in the bed? And at the end of the day, you have to understand why people like me would be skeptical that the people who are going to be in place beyond Will Levis, because Will Levis, it doesn't even matter. It's like when people still bring up Vrabel. Vrabel doesn't matter anymore. He's not here. Okay. It doesn't, like, that's an ancillary part of the conversation. Levis is still here. He's still on the roster, but he hasn't been in the lineup for 3 weeks at this point. And this team continues to lose football games. I can't in my mind. Mason Rudolph, by the way, who led a team to the playoffs last year, did lose in the postseason. He's obviously got his limitations, but it's good enough to get you to a postseason if you put him in position to succeed. All these people were responsible for so much more talent with so many more resources, so much higher draft picks, and so much more cap space, and they shit the bed wholly. So it's really tough for me, even as Titans fans are excited about a draft pick. And by the way, just you can get more excited than just one draft pick. A quarterback is not, there is no quarterback in this draft class that's going to outright save you. There is no Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen coming to save you here at this point. You need a great many things to support that theoretical young quarterback, rookie quarterback that you might put in place. And it's possible that you go in that direction, but it's also possible that you still don't with as many needs as you have. And you may well trade back in this situation. We're way too premature to have those conversations. But I think on the whole, with as poorly as this thing has gone, it would be really tough for me to come to terms with, if I was a Titans fan, the idea of the people who have royally screwed this thing up being responsible for putting it in a significantly better place. And what is a significantly better place next year, by the way? Is it 7 wins? Is it 6? That would be a substantial improvement over this mess. 6 wins was unacceptable a year ago. So we're just going to continue to lower the bar until they can continue to reach, 6-11 or 7-10. And is the owner even going to have patience for 6-11, 7-10? I don't think so. I think that even if she decided to bring everybody back for 2025, or the vast majority of people back in 2025, I don't think she's got the patience, because she wasn't sold on a rebuild. She was told they were going to be meaningfully competitive this year, and she invested her money in that. That's a really tough thing to justify when you've spent as much of her money and put her in as many of these positions as you have. And by the way, she's not absolved from any of this, because ultimately it is her team. It is her decision. These are her decisions to make, and nobody's making her make certain decisions. She's got people around her to advise her. And you may sit here and argue, well, what are they going to do if they fire Callahan and Carthon? Who are they going to get? How much better are they going to be? Are you just going to reboot this whole thing? You're going to go get a retread? I don't know, man. It's a tough spot. I wish I had those answers for you. They're in a really bad place. The thing that is going to be most interesting to see is how much more bad is she willing to put up with, because it's plenty reasonable to think that this would be a losing team again by record. Overall on the year, not this bad, but there would have to be some regression to the mean, one would think, even if they just cut down slightly on the turnovers at this point in time to get this thing back to meaningfully competitive, which he was told meaningfully competitive was coming this year. So with all that being said, happy or sad, for me, I can't answer this question because, I don't care at this point, whatever happens. I'm just ready for the season to be over. I've never wished away games in a season before. I consider it a great privilege to be able to do the job that I do. And the reason why I'm having such a hard time with it is I've never felt like this was a job. And I feel like I have aged 10 years in this season. I know you guys don't give a shit about, how I feel about it. It's about how you feel about it, because this is your franchise, your team, and the things that you're looking for, not necessarily for me. But damn, this has been a total waste of time this year, a total waste of time. And I hate to say that. I really hate to say that, because I wouldn't trade this job for anything in the world, but they have wasted everybody's time collectively. Yours, mine, everybody else that covers this team on a regular basis, everybody else that roots for this team or has interest in this team. Shit, they've even wasted the gamblers' time. Do you guys see this stat that came out earlier today? This is something, you know what, we'll save this when we get to the most disappointing part of the Titans' loss today. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch in the comment section. is how you get involved. Let me know what was the most disappointing part of this all. Seared says, aren't you not, what awful grammar, aren't you not a Titans fan? Why is it so serious? Oh, I mean, I'm not a Titans fan. I don't have an NFL team. I know people don't believe that, but like I've never rooted for a professional football team. I had a Jets jersey in second grade. That was 100 years ago. I'm 31 years old now. Mercifully, I've not paid attention to the Jets since we moved from New York. We lived in 5 different places as a family after we moved from New York. But no, I don't have an NFL team. I just work here, baby, because the money's good, and I love Nashville, and I love the money. But for everything else that's going on with all of this, there's a lot of disappointing parts of this season. What was the most disappointing part of this game to you? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. Let me know if you would be so inclined, and I will let you know what I think the most disappointing part was in just a second, right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by Zen Sports. I got a great gambling stat for you, courtesy of ESPN.com. But before I do that, I'll tell you that Zen Sports is the place to make betting even better. ZenSports.com, promo code ATOZTN gets you in on all the action, football, basketball. Not that far from spring training getting underway and getting baseball back in the swing of things. We've still got the NHL going on right now. March Madness is not too far in the distant future. Conference play in college basketball getting ready to tip off. All of your favorite bets can be made on all of your favorite major sports at ZenSports.com. Must be 21 plus and in the state of Tennessee to bet. Gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Call the Tennessee Red Line if you got a gambling problem, 1-800-889-9789. I think I already said that. I must be repeating myself. I'm losing track of everything that's going on. Bad football is starting to rot my brain. Either way, go to zensports.com for more information. Let's see. C-Red says it's not that massive if we still have a ton of cap space. I don't think your cap space is that great next year. Like, it's fine, but it's not great. Given, again, all the different things that you need on this roster, you would have slightly above average cap of a cap situation. And that, depending on what players you might decide to cut, there are dead cap hits associated with some of this stuff. It's not, you're not as financially in the clear as you were this year when you spent $228 million on long-term contracts for Calvin Ridley, L'Jarius Sneed, and Cheeto Awuzie, a couple other ones that, again, the talent got better on the football team. Why is the football team so much worse? So the most disappointing part of it today, I see a lot of comments. I see bad culture there from James Rickman. Ken Caniff says Spears was having a career day. He did have a career high. He ended up with 95 yards. He was at 100, and then the play that he got concussed on cost him 5 yards. And I hate it for Tajay just that he has another concussion. That was obviously the most disappointing part of the day. That's a really fun player, a really good guy, somebody who busts his ass. He's getting an opportunity with Tony Pollard not playing today because he had the flu and dealing with an ankle injury. He's been nursing for a couple of weeks now. But Tajay getting hurt was for sure, getting another concussion, honestly, was for sure the most disappointing part of the day. But here's one that I found that may be even more disappointing for you, especially if you bet on the Tennessee Titans this year. It's a crazy stat from David Payne Purdom on ESPN.com. The Tennessee Titans made history on Sunday by becoming the only team in the Super Bowl era to fail to cover the spread in 14 games during a season. They are 2-14 against the spread through 16 games. The Titans secured the worst record against the spread of any team since 1978 when the NFL went to 16 games, according to ESPN.com's David Payne Purdom on Twitter. So not only are they unwatchable, they'll cost you money if you're betting on them. I mean, yeah, just against the spread, obviously you can bet props, you can bet money line, you can bet I wouldn't bet the Titans on the money line. Given how all this stuff has gone this year, you can bet alternate spreads. You can do a lot of different things other than just the spread straight up. But 2-14, the worst since 1978. So again, not only are they bad, they cost you money. It's really, really, really difficult to be this kind of – they are a special kind of awful, which again is why I do not necessarily feel good about the trajectory of everything moving forward. But, that's what the offseason is for. And we'll see if we can't continue to we'll see if they can't continue to make progress on that front. There's no question they've taken a step back, though. Like, this whole thing was supposed to be new vision, getting into the modern era of football. By the way, the NFL turned the clock back when you decided you wanted to modernize. Everybody's running the ball at a rate that we haven't seen basically for the better part of the last decade. In fact, I saw a really good Greg Cosell quote, not from our podcast that we do with Greg, but I think it was on Ross Tucker's podcast. Let me see if I can find it for you. This is a crazy thing that we may have to do another show on another day, but something about the run game and how much teams are running the ball with volume at this point in time versus what they have typically done, which is completely counter to what the Titans wanted to accomplish this offseason, which, again, is batshit crazy. That the Titans decided to let Derrick Henry go, and then the rest of the NFL decided it was going to be run heavy as a league, but that's neither here nor there. With everything, Armando says, I lost my wife and kids for betting on the Titans. Well, that's what it is. Houston game tickets is worthless, Bucks, says William Anderson. Oh, who would you possibly? Yeah, no, I mean, I can't. Even if the weather's nice, I think that's going to be a pretty light crowd. I don't think they should wear the Oilers uniforms. I know that, that's one of the few novelty things that they have left at this point in time, but I just 3-13, man. Don't put those on. Don't sully what is the best uniform in the NFL, throwback, regular season, or not normal uniforms or otherwise. That's going to be a tough look to see them lose to Texans backups in the Houston Oilers uniforms if they continue the trend that they have been on at this point in time. So, the thing that disappointed you the most, Tajay getting hurt, and then also, if you've been betting on the Titans this year, you took a beating against the spread. All right, little Sunday fun day. Let's brighten things up here real quick. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. What's the best thing that you saw this Sunday? For those of you who suffered through the Titans game, you probably didn't see much to be happy about, except a better draft position. Shout out the Giants. Speaking of the Giants, though, they're going to have their hands full next week. I know they're riding a high, and Drew Lock had 5 total touchdowns today, which is crazy. The Colts shit the bed, which probably makes you feel really, really good because the Colts, with their playoff lives on the line, consistently shit the bed, it would seem. But the thing that the Giants are up against next week is the Eagles. And who do the Eagles have in the backfield? But Saquon Barkley, who has just recently broken 2,000 yards.
And he's going to have a chance at the record next week if they decide to play him against the Giants. Hurdles his way into the secondary here. Saquon Barkley crosses the 25. 21 more. And 2,000 for the season for Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I think he's allowed to take. This is the exact same scheme he popped on the long touchdown in the first half against Washington last week. Just pull and counter, backside guard, backside tight end, E.J. Jenkins, and it was over that left side of Jordan Mailata. He went the distance last week and just got himself another explosive run there here today.
And you see Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach. This is much the O-line's.
So he's the leading rusher in the NFL. We'll see if Derrick Henry can't get back into the 2,000-yard conversation. He's a little further away than Saquon was. Saquon's had an excellent year. He's had an incredibly healthy year, and he's behind one of the best offensive lines in football. He's benefited from Jalen Hurts. I know Jalen Hurts and Kenny Pickett were not available for the bulk of this game today. Tanner McKee came in throwing dimes and, making plays. A.J. Brown throwing his first touchdown pass into the stand from Tanner McKee, and then Big Dom, the security guard, having to go back and get it. First NFL game ever for Tanner McKee is what Bert tells me. That is quite an interesting note. So congratulations to the Eagles, who just rolled today yet again. But Saquon Barkley is my Sunday fun day. He is just shy of Eric Dickerson's all-time record. Eric Dickerson tried to put the bad juju on him, said he didn't want him to break his record, but Saquon's going to do it anyway, or at least going to try. I'd like to see Derrick Henry get to 2,000 yards again, too. That would be sick. I would be very, very happy for Derrick. Because if you can't enjoy whatever football season you're going through, at least you can enjoy other people having a great time. And there's a great many other NFL teams playing competitive football, just not in Nashville, Tennessee this season. All right, it's going to do it for us tonight. I got to get to the airport. We'll do the radio show tomorrow. We'll talk a lot more about Brian Callahan's future, about that rap sheet report. We'll even talk about Vandy getting a bowl win. All kinds of good stuff. College football playoff is right around the corner. It'll be a great time. So hang out with us from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone, and I'll see you back in Nashville tomorrow.
Go home! Go home! Go home! You're embarrassing Nashville. Go home!